Hi, friends. Today I want to share a new story with you. I'm Sophia Martinez, and this is how my love for baking helped me find success and showed me the ugly truth about my husband's rich and judgmental family. For 3 years, I lived a secret double life. During the day, I ran my cozy little bakery. But behind the scenes, I also managed one of the most successful restaurant chains in the country. I met my husband, James Winchester, at one of the outdoor tables at my bakery. He wasn't like the rest of his wealthy family. He was kind, humble, and truly cared about my dream. When he told me his family owned the big Winchester financial group, I was shocked. But James loved my cinnamon rolls just as much as he liked fancy food. What James didn't know was that I had already built something huge. 10 years earlier, I had started a restaurant chain called Bella, using my grandma's recipes and a small loan. It had grown to 30 locations around the country. I kept everything quiet by running it through a separate company and staying out of the spotlight. The trouble started after we got married. James's family, especially his mom, Victoria, looked down on my bakery. At every family event, she would make rude comments. "Now that you're a Winchester," she'd say, "aren't you going to stop playing around with that little bakery? It doesn't fit our family's image." I would just smile and change the topic, even while secretly planning Belissa's next location. The funny thing? The Winchesters often ate at my restaurants, especially Victoria. She even bragged about knowing the mysterious owner. Then came Thanksgiving dinner. The family was all together at their mansion, and Victoria wouldn't stop talking about a charity event she'd hosted at Bella Cucina, one of my restaurants. "The owner is so private and classy," she said, looking right at me. "Not like some businesses that use sidewalk chalk to advertise." I stayed quiet, thinking about the international contract I had just signed that morning. "Mother," James said, warning her to stop. But Victoria kept going. "Now this is a real business," she said. "Not some bakery selling cupcakes to kids." James's dad added, "Running a restaurant takes money, skills, and connections, not something someone without the right background can manage." James squeezed my hand. I'd been dealing with their comments for 3 years. I was used to it. But I also knew something they didn't. Bella Cucina was about to make a big announcement the next day. Then Victoria said, "I've invited the owner of Bella Cucina to speak at our next charity dinner. I'm sure they'll say yes. I'm their favorite customer." That's when James's sister Amanda added, "Well, at least we won't have to hear about that little bakery anymore. Let's talk about real businesses." Everyone laughed, except James, who tried to speak up. But I had heard enough. After 3 years of hiding my success, of being insulted while they praised my work without knowing it was mine, I decided it was time for the truth to come out. I pulled out my phone and sent a text I'd been waiting to send for a long time. Across the city, my top team was about to start Protocol Winchester, a plan I'd made just for this exact situation. "You're right, Amanda," I said as I stood up from the table. "Let's talk about real business. How about we continue this conversation tomorrow, over brunch in the private owner's dining room at Bella Cucina?" Victoria lit up. "You can't just book that room, Sophia. It's only for—" "Don't worry," I said with a smile. "We've got a table." I walked out of the mansion, leaving the family confused. James stayed behind, quietly smiling. He had found out my secret 6 months ago and had been waiting for this moment too. I knew tomorrow's brunch would be unforgettable. Some things are best revealed slowly, like a cold dish served at the perfect time. The next morning, I arrived early at Belissa's main restaurant. Before opening, the place felt calm and full of promise. As I walked through the kitchen in a sharp Chanel suit, the staff stood straighter. They were used to seeing me in chef clothes or casual wear, not dressed like a CEO. "Are we ready for Protocol Winchester?" I asked Marco, my head chef for the past 8 years. He grinned. "All set, boss. Can't wait to see their faces when they try your Nana's tiramisu." At exactly 11 a.m., the Winchester family walked in. Victoria led them proudly to the host. "We're here for brunch with the owner," she said grandly. "I'm Victoria Winchester." "Of course, Mrs. Winchester," said Thomas, my maitre d', keeping a straight face. "Right this way." He led them through the dining room, past the wine collection I'd built over years, and upstairs to the private floor. James came separately and gave me a small smile as they passed. He was enjoying the show. The private dining room was special to me. It had photos from every Bella Cucina location, awards we'd won, and a big picture of my grandmother in her original restaurant in Naples. Victoria looked around, then pointed to the empty chair at the head of the table. "Is the owner joining us soon?" she asked. "I'm already here," I said as I stepped into the room. The room went silent. Victoria looked shocked, then confused, then horrified. Richard dropped his glasses. Amanda's mouth opened in surprise. "This must be a joke," Victoria said. You run a bakery." "I run several businesses," I said, sitting down at the head of the table. "Bella Cucina is just the most well-known." I pressed a button, and a screen came down from the ceiling showing all the details. 30 restaurants across the U.S., over $300 million in yearly revenue, and plans to expand overseas. "Impossible," Richard whispered, but he was already scanning the numbers and realizing it was all true. "Let me tell you a story," I said as the food started to arrive. "It begins with my grandmother's little restaurant in Naples. She taught me that good food isn't just about ingredients, it's about love, family, and tradition." As each dish was served, I explained its meaning. The appetizer was based on her bread recipe. The pasta was the first dish I ever mastered. The main course was the one that made Bella Cucina successful a decade ago. I started with those recipes and a dream. I built something amazing. The bakery came later because I still wanted to be hands-on and stay connected to people. Victoria stared at her plate. She hadn't touched a bite. "All those times I bragged about knowing the owner," she said quietly. "You did know me," I replied. "You just didn't think I was someone worth knowing." James reached over and held my hand. He looked proud. When he had discovered the truth 6 months ago, he hadn't been angry, just impressed and secretly amused that his family had no idea. "But why keep it a secret?" Amanda asked, no longer rude, just curious. "Because success doesn't need attention," I said. "It's about creating something that matters. Every time someone celebrated at our restaurant, every time someone praised our food, even when your mom bragged about our service without knowing who I was, that meant more to me than fame." Just then, Thomas walked in with an envelope. "Here are the papers you asked for, Mrs. Martinez, Winchester." I opened the envelope and handed the documents to Victoria and Richard. "This is why I invited you," I said. "Bella Cucina is expanding internationally. We're looking for investors, and your company, Winchester Financial Group, gets the first chance." Richard's hands shook as he read through the papers. The numbers were incredible. Victoria had gone pale. "You want us to invest?" she asked. "After how we treated you?" I walked over to the large portrait of my grandmother. "You once said the restaurant business needs money, connections, and style. You were wrong. What it really needs is heart, honesty, and vision." I turned back toward them. "But," I added, "it also takes the wisdom to recognize a good opportunity, even if it doesn't look the way you expected." As they sat in stunned silence, the staff brought out the final course, my grandmother's famous tiramisu. "The real question is," I said, sitting down again, "are you ready to be part of something real?" The air in the room felt thick. This wasn't just a power play, it was a turning point. What they chose to do next would affect both our business and our family. Victoria looked down at her plate. The same dessert she'd bragged about to everyone, never knowing it came from me, the baker she had dismissed. James calmly ate his dessert, smiling quietly. All this time, Richard finally spoke. "We gave you advice like we were the experts. But you've been," he gestured at the reports, still trying to make sense of it, "building an empire," I said. "But why bring us in now?" Victoria asked, her voice trembling. "Because success doesn't mean much if you have no one to share it with," I said. "And the greatest win isn't proving people wrong, it's giving them the chance to change." Amanda laughed suddenly, really laughed for the first time in ages. "All those business lectures we gave you," she chuckled. "Meanwhile, you were probably calculating expansion plans in your head." That broke the tension. Even Victoria smiled, her eyes a little misty. Richard leaned forward, fascinated now. Your profits, your growth. And you did this without investors? I nodded. Every location was funded by reinvesting our earnings. No loans. No partners. Just smart business, great food, and my grandmother's recipes. But the bakery? Victoria asked. Why keep it? Because it keeps me grounded, I said. It reminds me why I started. To bring joy, not just to make money. Every cupcake means something to me. James reached for my hand. That's what I fell in love with, he told his family. Not the empire, but the heart behind it. The part you all overlooked. That day changed everything. Richard started treating me as an equal. We spent hours planning the international launch. He brought his sharp financial mind, and I brought my vision. Amanda joined in with marketing ideas, her excitement real this time. And Victoria? She asked if I would teach her how to bake. I want to understand, she said. How you built all this, from flour and dreams. A year later, everything had changed. The Winchester Financial Group became our key partner for global expansion. But even more important, we became a real family. Victoria now comes to my bakery every Wednesday morning. She's still learning, but she's proud of her pies. Richard doesn't talk about pedigree anymore. He talks about passion. Amanda's marketing work has become a central part of our brand. Today, Bella Cucina has 50 restaurants around the world. The original flagship has a photo wall. One picture shows Victoria proudly holding her first homemade pie. I still open the bakery every week. I still love the flour on my hands and the smiles on people's faces. At our Paris grand opening last month, Victoria stood beside me as I cut the ribbon. I was wrong, she whispered. Success isn't about status. It's about courage, about chasing your dream, even when no one believes in you. I squeezed her hand. We'd come a long way. Sometimes, I said, the biggest success is helping others see what they couldn't before. Now, our family gatherings look different. We still talk business, but while Victoria bakes cookies, Richard helps knead bread. Amanda shows off ad ideas while frosting cupcakes. And me? I still run an empire. But I'll never stop being a baker. Because true success isn't about choosing between humble or grand. It's about being both. And proving that the right ingredients, when brought together with love, can create something unforgettable.